It's nice to see everyone. I see some people that I met earlier in the day, or yesterday, I guess, in my class. So welcome back. I'm Dave Scott. I'm from Colorado, where it happens to be snowing now. It's 80 degrees here and snowing back at home. We're going to be talking about soft skills today. And it's funny because when I was making this presentation, I was talking to some of my coworkers and I said, I'm not the expert on all this, but it's stuff that I know that I need to work on. So I think everybody else in here probably feels the same way, hopefully. And some of this stuff hopefully is familiar to you, and some of it maybe is new. Let's see what the, there we go. Well, I checked this earlier, it was working. So I'll just do the old-fashioned way. Nothing seems to be working. There we go. So a little bit about me. I started as a student in 1989. You guys did this presentation the other day. I already heard all this. I kind of have the same slide on all my stuff, my intro. I started the Colorado CBET study group, so you might have heard from me from there. I know there's a lot of people in Florida that were in our CBET study group in the past. So that was in 2004, 2009. I was the A.D.E.T Biomed of the Year. 2012, I was a member of the MD Publishing Department of the Year. Nothing to do with me, it was my department. I was featured as Tech of the Month in the old Medical Dealer magazine, so that's been a while ago. You guys remember Medical Dealer rather than TechNation. Served as the president of the local Biomed Association, president, vice president, and board member. I provided the CBET review at the Expo up until 2019 when Amy purchased the CBET review from Kevin. And now I present with Amy on the CBET review. I have an associate degree in sports medicine, and I'm a military trained biomed, U.S. Army. And I actually I started military training school at Simmons in Denver, the Simmons Army Medical Center, which happens to be where UCHealth is located, where I work at now. So I tell people I haven't gone very far in my career. I still work at the same place where I started at all those years ago. I have a question for all of you. What does integrity mean to you? And you can just blurt out answers or say, raise your hand, whatever. What does integrity mean to you? Honest. Honest? I like that.
Say what you mean and mean what you say.
That's good. I changed jobs earlier this year in January, and I went to orientation class, and that was one of the questions they asked at that. And probably the only thing I remember from orientation class was that. And we have this page called The Source where everything in our hospital, you can look up all your HR stuff and all that on The Source. But integrity, what does it mean? And there's a lot of really good answers. One of the ones that I remember the most from the presentation I went to is what you do when no one's looking is integrity. It's not a right or wrong answer. I mean, everybody else's answers are right answers too, but you think about like what you do when no one's looking. Isn't that what a lot of our job is? Like, there's not always someone there looking over our shoulder, making sure that we checked every checkbox in our PM or did like whatever we're doing. We're all trusted to have integrity to do the best job that we can, no matter what, whoever's looking or not looking. So, topics covered today: customer service, A.D.E.T, which is an acronym, work order management, professional emails, and professionalism. Customer service. Customer service skills are often described as being things like a people person. I don't know, people tell me that I'm a people person, but I don't really think I'm a people person, because when I'm not around other people, I'm pretty quiet. And even when I get in big groups, I get kind of quiet, so I don't really consider myself a people person. But being a people person is not a skill, it's actually a trait. So it's not something that you can develop. So I'm going to teach you some skills that you can actually develop to become more of a customer service related person. is listed as soft skills, not traits. Both are observable and developable. And it's something that you can also notice in an interview if you're interviewing someone. Patience. Customers who reach out to Biomed are often confused and frustrated. Being listened to and handled with patience goes a long way in helping customers feel like you're going to alleviate their frustrations. You guys probably have run into this before in your normal job, I'm guessing. Patience among customer service teams is also important because great service beats fast service every single time. True? Great service beats fast service. If you want fast service, go to McDonald's. If you want great service, go to Biomed. If you deal with customers on a daily basis, be sure to stay patient when they come to you stumped and frustrated, but also be sure to take the time to truly figure out what they truly need. So remember, great service beats fast service every time. Be patient with your customers. And sometimes you deal with the same people every day. And I can see where it'd be easy to lose your patience. Communicate clearly. Be mindful of how some of your communication habits translate to customers. It's best to err on the side of caution whenever you find yourself questioning a situation. You need to be cautious about how communication translates to customers. When it comes to important points, you need to relay clearly to customers, keep it simple and leave nothing to doubt. For example, I once went and got some work done in my car. I was told by an employee if I wanted an oil change, it would be included in my final bill. I thought that meant it would be included for free. And find out it wasn't the case. And it was an extra charge. But the way that the employee stated it was like it would be included, and it wasn't included. So make sure that you communicate clearly. Using positive language. I've heard people in my shop that I work in kind of do the opposite of this. So this is a good point to put in here. Customer service means having the ability to make minor changes in your conversation patterns. This can truly go a long way creating happy customers. For example, let's say customer contacts you with a service call that's not an emergency and you're busy. Responding to the positive language can affect how the customer hears your response. So it's not only what you say, it's kind of sometimes how they take what you're saying to mean something differently, like you're impatient with them or you don't have time for them or whatever. So without positive language, I'm really busy right now. I'm not sure I can get to your call. Is that something you would say to a customer? Hopefully not. Everyone in here says no. That's good. I've heard coworkers of mine say that to customers, and I'm kind of like, oh, I overhear their conversations. And I'm just like, no, that's not what you say. So with positive language, your call is important to me. I'm working on a couple of things right now, and I'll be there as soon as I can. You see there's quite a difference there in the way that it will be perceived by a customer. So using positive language. Acting skills. This is something that we kind of have to do a lot because you're not always happy with the situation. And you don't always want to let people know how unhappy you are with the situation. So sometimes you have difficult customers. Sometimes you're going to come across people who seem to never be happy or you'll never make them happy. Situations outside your control. They have a terrible day, or they're just a natural born complainer. Does anybody have a customer like that at work? Probably. Yeah, there's always one every place you go, right? They just, I think it's their goal to wreck everyone's day or something, whoever comes across them. Well, sometimes creep into your usual support routine. You'll be greeted by those barnacle customers that seem to want nothing else but to pull you down. A great customer service professional needs basic acting skills to maintain their usual cheery persona in spite of dealing with people that are just plain grumpy. I used to have to go to this clinic on the north end of town, and there's these two ladies there, and I think they just kind of fed with each other's negativity. and just were unhappy with life, it seemed like. But I would always try to cut my visit as short as possible, take care of their problem, and like, see you guys later, have a good day, and leave. And then as soon as I left, I would always think to myself, at least I'm not them, I don't have to deal with that every day. I don't have to be here at this place every day. And then it's like they just always seemed unhappy to me. And my day always got better after I left. Unflappability, this is a big one in biomed, and I think it's very, very important. Maybe one of the most important customer service skills that I'm mentioning today. This person is sometimes described as keeps their cool, staying cool under pressure, and so on, but it all represents the same thing. The ability to stay calm and influence others when things get crazy. Have things ever gotten crazy on you at work? Called to a call and the doctor's upset and the nursing staff's upset and they're all relying on you to fix it, right? You need to stay calm under pressure. And sometimes we get put in stressful situations and other people, doctors, nurses, other techs, et cetera, are aggravated because their equipment is not working as it should. BMETs need to be the calming factor. That way the customers know that you have it under control. Don't let them rattle you. Keep your cool. I know sometimes some of the doctors, depending on who they are, can really get out of control. The best BMETs know what they can't let the situation let them lose their control, lose their cool. In fact, it's part of our job to be the rock for customers who think that the world is falling apart around them with some current problems. So you want to be the calming situation. I used to deal with this heart surgeon, and I don't know, maybe heart surgeons are like more pain in the butt than anybody else. I don't know. He always, like, if anything ever went wrong, I was like, we need biomed right here, right now. And you get up there and it's just like the video signal's not coming in on the slave monitor or something like, mine like that, but it's like, we need you here right now. And you press a couple buttons, and okay, fine. Like never thank you or never any appreciation, just that, like, why isn't this working? And really it's your people don't know how to use the system, but I'll push the right button for you and fix it for you. But you always want to be the calming factor. Unflappability. Ability to handle surprises. This is a pretty good one too. You want to create a system for when you come across a customer who has a product or service problem you've never seen. You need to know who is the first question. Decide who should be the go-to person. You want to know when you don't know what to do. Define a logical escalation path so that you won't be left wondering who should reach out to. Maybe when to call tech support or when to call a coworker. So I have coworkers that at the hospital that I work at, we have GE and Philips monitoring equipment, and I'm pretty well versed on Philips monitoring equipment, but the GE equipment not as much. And when I started, I said, well, can I go to GE training? And they said, well, we're going to be getting rid of all the GE monitoring equipment, so we're not sending anyone to training. I said, well, when are we getting rid of it? Oh, in like 2 or 3 years when we open the new tower that I was talking about before the session. Well, great, I'm going to have to learn this stuff somehow, and I'm not getting any training on it. So I have one of the other guys that I work with that he's the opposite of me. He's very well versed on GE, but not as well versed on Philips. So I call him with questions like whenever I have something with GE monitoring system. What is the next question? When the problem is out of your league, what are you going to do? Get help from a coworker, call in a manufacturer to fix it, factory support, call tech support. So you kind of need to know when to draw the line, like when it's maybe over your head or something that you don't feel comfortable with, and you need to have the ability to handle this kind of surprise. And usually there's someone that can help you, but you just need to know when to do that. How? When it comes time to get someone else involved, how are you going to contact them? At what point do you draw the line and realize you need help? So ability to handle surprises. Everybody has surprises. No one knows everything. But I think as a shop usually, or as a whole department, you have someone that knows almost everything within your group, or of course tech support, or if you have to, calling manufacturer support. Tenacity, a willingness to do what needs to be done and not take shortcuts. Kind of goes along with that integrity thing that I was talking about earlier. Is a key skill in providing the kind of service that people talk about. Remember, your customers are people too, and knowing that putting in extra effort will come back in the end. You should be your driving motivation will not cheat your customers of bad service. A.D.E.T. A.D.E.T, as I said, is an acronym. So the A stands for acknowledge. So you acknowledge person. I have some examples in a minute and we'll talk about more. I is introduce. D is duration. E is explain. And T is thanks. And I was talking about this to one of my friends the other day and saying, it might not matter that you do exactly what this is, but it matters that you do this part, maybe not word for word, but that everyone does this. So acknowledge, greet people with a smile, use their names if you know them. Attitude is everything. Create a lasting impression. So if I see that grumpy tech that I know, that I say, hey, Amy, how are you doing today? Just here to look at whatever it is, the problem that you called me about. You say, introduce yourself to them. So I just said, hey, Amy, they already know me and I'm Dave, but if they didn't know me, I can introduce myself. Introduce yourself to others politely. Tell them who you are and what you're going to help them with. So you're here to help them as a biomed tech. Duration, give the best estimate how long you think you're going to be doing what you're doing will take to complete. Explanation, and like I said, you don't have to follow these exactly, but the general idea is what this A.D.E.T is about. Advise others what you're doing and how procedures will work. And T for thank you at the end. Thank somebody. Thank people for their assistance or their help. A lot of times I have to get in the patient room or whatever, and maybe I don't know like what isolation gear to wear or where it's at or something like that. If it's, I look in the drawer and it's not there, and hey, where I need more of these or whatever. I can always make it a point to try to thank those people that help me with that kind of stuff whenever I'm all done. So an example of A.D.E.T with staff. Hi, I'm Dave from Clinical Engineering Department. I'll be here in your department today to complete maintenance on medical equipment. I'll be here most of the morning, and then thanks at the end of your work. Just let someone know. I read this article quite a while back by this other biomed guy named Paul Kelly. He's a California biomed guy, and he talked about the ninja tech. And he said, like, you don't want to be a ninja tech. You don't want to be the tech that sneaks in there and like gets all your work done and sneaks out and no one ever knows you're there. You want to be the tech that's more visible and lets people know what you're doing, because then the perception is, oh, biomed's here to help us. It's not like, well, we never see biomed, they never do anything up here. They're not ever in our department, and I don't even know why we have a biomed department, because they're all ninjas. They all sneak in under dark and do their stuff and sneak out. You don't want to be that person. You want to let them know what you're doing, why you're there, how long it's going to take, what you're doing in their area. Another example is going in a patient room or a patient around a patient family. And this is never easy to do, because some patients maybe, their family's very stressed out or things are not going well. You don't know what their situation is, but you want to use A.D.E.T in this case. So hi, I'm Dave from Clinical Engineering Department. I'm here to look at the monitor in your room. This should only take a few minutes. And then after the work is done, thank you for your time. Have a nice day. Yeah.
Going back to your ninja.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Why do you think that service people prefer to be ninja?
To be ninjas? Yeah. Well, the article that I read by Paul, he said, like a lot of us are introverts, and we don't really like to talk to people that much, and their customer service skills that I was talking about being a people person. How many like raw people persons do you know in that are biomed techs? Usually they don't go hand in hand. It's kind of like a technical person that's usually more technically oriented and rather deal with equipment or problems or whatever than people as much, I think. What have you run across in your history?
I'm a big believer in selling value to the service that we provide. So,
Right.
one of the key components that, from my perspective, is communication. I wasn't sure that's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
I believe it has to be just a matter of communication.
I think that if you run across, oh, sorry, go ahead.
The perception that I'm, trying to sell somebody that I'm doing a job.
I've worked with techs in the past that, like you have like a level of like technical ability, like 0 to 10. Then you have like a personality or a personable ability like 1 to 10. And these guys, like their technical ability is down like around 1 or 2, but their personability is around like a 9 or 10. Guess who the staff thinks is like the best tech in that department? The one that has the personality. They can't fix anything. They can't like troubleshoot, like replace the battery in, in an otoscope or a light bulb in an otoscope, but they can sure talk to the customer and tell them, everything's going to be okay and reassure them that ability that I was talking about earlier. They can tell them like everything's going to be great and they seem very believable. That's the person that is really like, that's what a lot of companies are trying to hire now, and they try to train them the technical ability, because equipment now is not like what it used to be when I started in biomed, when we learned to troubleshoot the components. I mean, it's swapping boards, swapping components, swapping assemblies. You don't have to be as technically proficient, but you have to be more personable with people now than you did in the past. And I think that if people like that visibility thing, in this case, like telling them who you are and what you're doing when you go to the unit, and making sure that they know I have biomed, I'm written all over my side of my car, and so they see me push my car, oh, that's biomed, like they're here working on, doing maintenance on all our stuff or whatever. And most of the areas that I go, it's like I'm assigned to that area, so they kind of know me, but the staff works 24-hour shifts and, or 12-hour shifts and different times than I see, so I don't always see all the same people. And there's like people that are there all the time, the constants, but then some of the staff flexes a lot of the time because some work nights, some work weekends, some like change their shifts around. So I don't always know the people, so I have to make sure I say hi to people and make sure that they maybe see my cart rolling around, because perception is reality, right? What people perceive, whether it's true or not, that's what they perceive. That's their idea. That's what they see as their truth of what you're doing. So, yeah.
The example you gave about the personal technician and the
Personability and technical ability.
technical, what's also happens in that kind of situation, the background, most of the time what happens is the person who is personal, the technician, we bring them, okay, I'll take the machine, let's say AKG machine,
Down to the shop.
and then
You get the guy that's really technical ability, right?
he's going to do the work.
Then he goes back there and tells him, got a fix for you.
That's what is happening. Both the
Right, right.
So that's when the department takes up.
Right, that's your PR person. That's like the personable person. That's the person everybody wants to deal with in your department. Even though they really don't know anything, I mean, know very little, not compared to like someone technical ability of 10, their technical ability is lower, but they're able to talk to people and more personable. And they kind of let people know they're not a ninja. They don't sneak in there and sneak out and no one knows who they are. I think that's a big deal in biomed. And I think that a lot of employers now are looking more for that kind of person. Would you agree with it?
100%.
Yeah.
It's soft skills.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, I see a lot of people in here. I was talking before, I said, seems like all the people that really need the soft skills part probably won't be in the class because they already think they're good on all that stuff. But it's good to see like so many people in here. And I know you guys probably, when you're sitting in here, you guys are probably like customer service aces, I would guess. And when you go back to work, maybe this presentation and everything will be on the MD Expo page. Maybe you can like share some of the stuff with some of your coworkers, because I'm guessing that you guys And here are probably the customer service experts.
I'm going to say though, there are times where it's appropriate to be stealthy because if you have an enraged cardiologist or surgeon or radiologist and you want to get the job done, sometimes it's best to be discreet about it because they're looking for someone's head and typically you will be the target.
The fall guy?
Yeah, the fall guy.
I'm okay with being the fall guy.
I don't know.
I'm okay with that.
I've had some pretty,
If they need to blame somebody, you know, they can, it's not my fault that your equipment failed. But if you want to blame someone, you know, I'm the person here to blame. I mean, if you need to have a fall guy, it's me, you know, I don't have any control over your system failing. But I'm here to help you to get it working again. That's the point that I want to try to get across. Work order metrics. What will management be looking at from you as a technician? This is an area that I see a lot of people fail at, and it seems like the easiest area too to me. So I related to fantasy football. In fantasy football, what's looked at in fantasy football? Statistics, average points per game. There's projected points by experts that guess, like they think this player playing this team is going to make this many points, or the kicker's going to kick this many field goals, and you know they want it. So who can get the team the most points? Getting the best players on your team is why you get the most projected points. You try to make your starting lineup based on that points. These factors make up the strength of your team in fantasy football. Well, in biomed, we have other metrics that we could base like our team off of, and PM completion percentage, that's a really big one. Time management, average repair time, total time to repair. I worked at GE. Has anyone worked at GE before in here? TTTR, right? Total time to repair, that was like big, like a dash. These are all dashboard items that you have in biomed. Cost of repairs, labor and parts, and then work order analysis. I'll go over each one of these a little bit. So a lot of time now, like PMs are the most important, right? I mean, in management's eyes, I'm not saying in technician's eyes, but PMs, what's your PM percentage completed for the month? Did you get 100%? Or you have other stuff that maybe then factored into it that you cannot locate it, and use, salvaged, or storage. And those count, according to the Joint Commission, as being completed, but they're completed under a process. So you couldn't find it, you're looking for it. It's in use, you'll go back to it. But they don't count those against you in your percentage. But taking no action at all and no notes on your work order or no steps that you've tried to do any kind of action towards that PM and it's just not completed, not good. And I was talking to one of my coworkers the other day, and I said, "How are you doing on your PMs? You know, it's towards the end of the month. How are you doing on your PMs? Oh, you know, I don't know. I've got all these repairs I got to do, and I got to get this done." I said, "Well, you know, whenever we look at your statistics, we have a one-on-one with our supervisor every month. He doesn't ask you how many repairs you did, does he? He looks at how many PMs you have completed, and he looks at how many hours you have documented of time, you know, towards your 8-hour day, is the two big factors that they look at. And, you know, like, PMs sometimes don't think, and if you work on them during the whole month instead of waiting till the last day of the month, which I see a lot of techs do, it's always hard to get your PMs completed in the last day of the month. Work on them gradually and you'll get them done a lot easier. Then when you do have something that pops up that you need to take care of, you'll already have those PMs completed. When I was in the military, and Chuck might know too, but we had to do, our PMs were all, they wanted us to do the first 15 days of the month was like, you really focused on all your PMs. That was like your PM time. And then the last 15 days of the month, you know, you completed the ones you couldn't get, stragglers, but they wanted us to have like a high percentage the first 15 days of the month, right? Yeah, you too. I'm an Army person and Chuck's a Navy person, but I know that we kind of have like a lot of similarities in some of the stuff we do or did when I was in that area. Time management. This tells management what you're doing throughout the day. So time to complete PMs, time to complete repairs, time for meetings, time for professional development, time for whatever else you're doing for the day. Usually management will look at how many hours out of the day you have booked in quotes or accounting for. You might have a goal for your department. Do people here have goals for your department? Like out of an 8-hour day, they want 6 hours documented or whatever it is. I don't know. I think ours is 70% of our day they want us documented, so we're at 5.6 hours out of 8, I guess. Usually more than that, but that's our goal for our department. You might have a department goal. Like I said, usually management will want you to account for most of your 8-hour day on work orders. So just letting them know what you're doing, just put a work order. I have work orders that I do every month for meetings. I just call it, it's just our department work order. And we have huddle every Tuesday. We have a huddle. So every Tuesday, half hour goes on my work order for my huddle. And then I have the work orders that I do for rounds and departments. So each customer that I said was assigned to me, I have a work order for rounds. And sometimes like really basic repairs go on that rounds work order too. Like I have this department, I take care of a burn ICU, and they have a tub room where they scrub these patients and give them baths at. Well, they hook up their monitoring to the tub and the patient all the time, and they're constantly dumping their SPO2 cables in the tub. And it'll stop working. It gets the cable it's not waterproof where the finger probe connects to it, and it'll stop working. And I collect those cables from them. Usually I'll take them down to my desk and I'll let them sit for a few days. And then a few days later I'll check them out and make sure they're dried out. And someone said, you should get a thing of rice and just put it in a thing of rice. But that goes on my rounds work order for that department. I don't do an individual work order for SPO2 cables. Does anyone else have any ideas or stuff that you'd like to share that you guys do that work for work orders, work order management? Does anyone have to account for 8 hours out of their 8-hour day? No?
I used to work at a place where they asked for 8 hours, but that there was a work order for cleanup setup time for the shop, and the lunch was also.
Yeah.
So
when I was in the military, we had to account for 8 hours of every day, either on PM work orders or repair work orders, or we had like police call that we had to do, which is like basically going out in the parking lot outside of our shop and picking up trash, cigarette butts, and just dumping clothes into that area. It's police call. And it sounds like a police call sounds like something really official, but it's just picking up trash. Formations, we had PT, we had a lot of like actual work order, like repair BioMed stuff. Probably was not even close to 8 hours in a regular day, what we had in the military, but all the other duties as assigned, as they call it, had 8 hours per day. And we had standard times for our PMs too, so we weren't able, like if it said on our PM sheet that this takes an hour to do, that we charged an hour. We couldn't put 0.75, even though it took us less time to do what we had to put an hour. I think things have changed since then. Now it's back in the 80s when I was in the military, early 90s. So time management, divide up time for PMs completed. Some PMs take longer than others. So when you go, like now, you know, like on a test equipment that has automation, it actually times you when you're doing your PM. Have you guys seen that stuff? They have them here in the trade show. If you haven't, you get a chance to go by and look at that tonight. But I always tell people, you know, like, well, that's how much it took once you got everything hooked up and found the piece of equipment, brought it over to wherever you're testing it at. And, you know, oh, it took 15 minutes to go through that whole test procedure. We had an old at work, we had day trend, ESU tester, and we had the whole checkout for setbacks on there. And, you know, you had to take the cover off and you had to check the fuses, and it was the whole step-by-step manufacturer PM. Well, you know, you go through that whole PM thing on there through the day trend equipment, and I think it was, I don't know, it said 15 or 20 minutes, I think is all it took, you know, actual time of testing. But the person that did the OR had to find that piece of equipment, bring it down to our shop, take the cover off, check the fuses, check this, that, once you actually do the actual testing part, it wasn't really that bad. Then when he's done, you kind of take it back upstairs, back and put it back where they keep it at up there. So that time's not factored into those automated testing systems. So sometimes the real time is a lot more, well, most times the real time is going to be a lot more than that. And then you have stuff that you can't find, that you look for and look for. You want to document, you know, you look for it at least once or twice during the month on your work order before you complete it is not able to find. So time for ordering parts. So I had some monitors that I was doing that needed battery replacements. So I ordered all the batteries for them all at once, one for each monitor. So each one gets added to each monitor for cost. Time for looking for PMs that are due even though they weren't completed, like I was just talking about. If a PM is done by a vendor, this is a tough one because some of my vendor PMs that I've been dealing with lately, it seems like they take longer than if I was just to do it myself. You know, and the time that it takes to set up the call with the vendor, get a PO, schedule the vendor with the customer, and then once the vendor gets there, you know, meet that vendor, show them where the stuff is, you know, tell the customer that this is, you know, Jack from biosurgery, you know, and he's going to be doing the PM on this laser, you know, and then for me, the biggest pain in the butt is like following up afterwards. Can you please send me the paperwork for the PM that you did when you were here? Seems like a lot of vendors don't want to do that, or it's like really difficult for them to get, you know, their job is not done until I get the paperwork. My PO is not going to pay you anything until I get that paperwork. So that takes up a lot of time actually doing those vendor PMs. So that's the vendor PMs. That's time management on PMs. Time management as a tech is an area where a lot of techs get into trouble. Have you ever worked with people that have a hard time documenting all their stuff that they do? I mean, when you look at like some of that stuff, just walking, the hospital I work in, so our shop is on the west side of the hospital. We have an eye clinic, which is on the east side of the hospital. To walk from this side to this side takes me 10 minutes, one way. If all the elevators kind of go like the way I want them to go and I hit the button, 10 minutes one way. And then walk back and it's 10 minutes. So that kind of stuff sometimes doesn't get, people go, oh, I'll put down, you know, like 0.1 on my work order, 0.25 or whatever. It's 20 minutes to walk there and back. That was without talking to anybody. That was without going to the department. That was without trying to look for whatever it was that we were trying to find. 20 minutes to walk there and back. You definitely get your steps in, I can tell you that. That's for the day when you do that. If everyone is doing this correctly, it can make management's job a lot easier, documenting over time. This can help factor into adding staff, look at solutions for time-consuming tasks, and look for solutions. Average, yeah.
Question. Regarding the previous slide during time management.
Sure.
There's a lot of new neuroscience out there.
Cool.
And your analogy about walking is interesting because those are kind of tasks that you understand how a brain's working. Should probably do later on in the day. Your brain is getting tired of the capacity to think properly. So the more thoughtful things require a lot of concentration. We want to really manage our focus, our efforts should be done in the morning. Precious. And
I like that.
those kind of tasks that you described where you have to walk across the
Yeah, just time consuming, like brainless type of thing. Yeah. Right. That's good. I like that. I kind of have an unwritten rule of mine that I don't do defibs if I can help it on Friday. Because it's like the end of the week. I like to do, like you said, in the morning. I like to test defibs in the morning on like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Fridays. And another thing that's an unwritten rule of mine is that I never load software on anything on Friday either. It's like everyone knows that deal, I'm sure. Not because I can't do it, because it's easy to load software on stuff, but you don't always know what the consequences of loading software on something is going to be. on a Friday afternoon, you don't want to do that. And I always tell vendors when they come in, like, no, we're not doing that on a Friday. We can load it on Monday, because then we have the rest of the week for you to try to fix it if it screws up. But that's a good point. I like that. I never thought of that, but I'm going to have to start trying to do that whenever I have to go down to that area. Average repair time or average work order time measured in quarter hours gives management an idea of how much time is being spent on repairs on average. Depending on the areas that techs work, the times vary. So like that whole thing with the eye clinic where I said, every repair there is going to be a lot more because you have that walking time, it's added into there. We have an area that I have to go to also. It's a virtual health center, or that's what they call it, virtual VHC, virtual health center. It's a tele war room, and it's off campus. And I cross the street from the hospital. It takes me about 15 minutes to, depending on how far back in the parking lot I am. Sometimes I get in the front row, sometimes in the back row. And it's a big parking lot. It can take me up to 20 minutes just to walk to my car. Then I get in my car, drive out of the parking lot, drive to the virtual health center. I'm already at 45 minutes by the time I get there, one way. So those repair work orders, all of those repair work orders, the time for me starts at an hour and a half and then goes up from there, because I have meeting time to get there. And usually those calls are like, we need you here right away, whatever isn't working. Well, I think it's the mouse on a GE system tonight. Oh, it's gotta be the GE system. I know the Philips system, why can't you ask questions about that? So sometimes this is used to compare repair times among techs. They're kind of doing similar jobs. Used to determine techs needed to complete the workloads in the department and staffing. I have a good page coming up on that whole workload thing in just a few. This is usually a measure in days to complete total time to repair. So TTTR at GE, that's a big statistic for them, their dashboard. This is usually measured in days, time to complete. It gives management an idea of how long it takes to turn over repairs. So from the time it comes in your shop, you order parts, do whatever you need to do, and the time it is repaired and closed and brought back to the department, how long does that take? Can factor in the department staffing levels, can also point out areas that need more investigation, such as parts availability or back orders on parts, time it takes for vendors to complete repairs when they're sent in for work. It's a measurement of department efficiency, total time to repair. Cost of service ratio. A lot of biomed techs don't realize what this is, but people in management, this is the big one, right? Are any of you guys in management in here? Yeah, no, yeah. It's a pretty big deal that your cost of service rate. This is what everything that you do at biomed kind of rolls up to, your total number of what your department spends. And it's a very important number on your management. So cost of service ratio is the purchase cost of equipment inventory, factors in your shop hourly rate, so how much your shop charges per hour, like your internal rate, whatever it is. If you're an ISO, I'm sure you probably have that number figured out, but if you're in an in-house biomed department, you need to figure out, like what your staffing costs you per hour to do these repairs. Cost of parts, cost of vendor repairs, cost of service expenses such as mileage, reimbursement, and transportation cost, cost of service contracts. So if it's under a contract, and this is a lot of the time when your cost of service ratio, you can use that to kind of get things off of contract, because usually your cost of service ratio under contract is much higher than it is if it's in, handled by your staff. I'm not going to get into the whole, you can go to a whole presentation just on cost of service ratio, and I'm definitely not the expert on this area. Operational costs such as office supplies, printer paper, etc., that kind of thing, our Band-Aids, whatever, shop supply type stuff. All these factor into the cost of service ratio, or the COSR, a lot of times it's abbreviated in biomed. It's measured in a percentage. Cost of repairs can help identify equipment with high repair costs. Can look at can look at history of equipment and see how much is spent over its lifetime. Once the equipment reaches a certain threshold, it can be added to an equipment list being equipment that needs to be replaced. So like if your fleet of equipment, whatever stuff you have, if you have, we'll say, I don't know, syringe pumps, and it has all these ones that you have, maybe one that comes down like more often than other ones, you can help to identify it as a lemon. Hopefully, like try to work on getting some of that stuff replaced. Say we're going to retire these, and we're going to try to get these new ones in here that hopefully we won't have as much maintenance on it. Helps for equipment planning. Cost of repairs, the cost of service ratio is measured of department efficiency, which I said earlier. Cost of service ratio can help look at areas to cut costs in service contracts. Your medical equipment requires PM labor, PM parts, repairs, some user errors, some service calls and service contract. I thought I had oh, there we go. I thought I had the calculation here. So you take your annual cost of maintenance divided by your cost of the asset, and that's how you can get the cost, your cost of service ratio percentage. So how much you're spending. So if you have a big contract on something, like per year, and it, the cost of the asset is not, not as much. Like we'll say an MRI, if it's $100,000 a year contract, and your cost of your MRI, we'll say, is $1 million. That's a 10%, right? It's costing you 10% a year for your cost of service ratio, which a lot of the time biomed departments, what do you want yours under? Your cost of service ratio. Do you have a number that you're as like your goal?
As the ISO, if the maintenance cost for manager goes beyond 30%,
30.
and then we will.
Usually it's your whole inventory though, right? Everything is what we use to figure this. One piece individually, like I did, right?
Big ticket items for we use, the price goes, the cost goes to the 1/3 of its perceived value, not the original value. What is after the depreciation?
Oh, okay. You take out depreciation.
Yeah. And then okay.
Then, okay.
Whatever you want to do with the hospital.
Okay.
That's how
Yes.
it's perceived from my
Yeah. So this is kind of a big picture thing that a lot of biomed people, when you just do work orders every day and you're putting your time in there and your parts in there and your whatever, we don't ever really see this part. This is more like management that looks at this, but it's kind of the bigger picture of like how your department's doing overall, this cost of service ratio. And then anyone in here CHTM? Yeah, that was on the test, huh? Yep. CHTM, that's a big one on the test. Analysis. This is something that management does also to look at staffing. PM work orders are analyzed to determine whether an AEM can be done. I don't know if anyone went to Ben St. Lang's presentation earlier on all the analysis that they did. I think it's Sodexo, right? Where he works at. Yeah. So the two guys were from Sodexo in the presentation earlier today. But that can be a whole presentation on its own, the AEM stuff. AEM is alternate equipment maintenance. This maintenance differs from the manufacturer recommended interval or PM steps, either one. It could be you skip a couple steps, like I was talking about the 4-step XPM that, like it asked you in the day training equipment, did you check fuse F1 it's a 10 amp fuse? Check, check. Do you need to check that fuse every time if it hasn't had any repairs or anything done to it since the last time you did a PM on it? I can't imagine the fuse has changed it. No one's opened it. So that's like an AEM thing that maybe you look at, as management, but it's not always the intervals. Sometimes the steps that are omitted is also considered AEM. If PMs are routinely completed on a certain piece of equipment with no adjustments necessary, then maybe a PM can be considered. So that's something that you can coach technicians on as a manager and say, if you don't have to do any adjustments or anything on the equipment, code it like you didn't do any adjustments. And then at the end of the year or in the 5 years or whatever, end of the time period, management looks at that and says, oh, 99% of our PMs on this piece of equipment pass with no adjustment. Maybe we should look at changing this to AEM Or, maybe we don't need to do it once a year. Maybe we can move it out to twice a year because 99% of the time it's passing with no problems. Equipment with no previous service history is not eligible for AEM. That's kind of like a little star there by it, right? Because if you have other people that you share information with, right, that you can use their information.
The exception to AEM is mostly new equipment. Let's say new model came into the market and you have
New to everyone, and it's, yeah.
cannot be a part of the there's some equipment like radiology, lasers.
Yeah.
Some of those
They're not
equipment
eligible for
they're not
AEM.
eligible.
Yeah.
Everything else.
They're required by Joint Commission to have manufacturer recommended PMs, and that's it. There's no discussion on those.
The one which you can, based on the service history, you can tweak the
The frequency or the steps.
let's say for defibrillator, some of the defibrillator tests used to
Can you guys hear him in the back? Oh.
battery test used to be there's a requirement. Some models want. The battery is recently replaced, let's say 6 months ago, you replaced it, it's from original equipment, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
So something saves time.
Yeah, AEMs I think are great. There's a whole, one of the guys from Colorado that I worked with on some other stuff. His name is Matt Veritich. And Matt did the whole thing with Amy on AEMs, and I know he was doing a bunch of workshops, him and Frank Painter, and I think that some of the stuff is available through Amy. I'm definitely not an expert on AEMs. You probably know way more than I do. I'm a biomedical person, but I know that by the way I code things, gets management I get them to look at, oh, why are we doing this so much? We have all this stuff passing and we're wasting our time doing all this stuff. We could use our time more efficiently on something else. So as a technician, sometimes you don't realize that bigger picture part, and that's why I have this slide in here is more than how AEMs are done. Analysis, it's important to code PM work orders correctly. If a PM passes with no adjustments, the work order should be closed with no adjustments needed. If minor adjustments are needed, then close it that way. If repairs are needed, at the PM close with completed repairs needed and open corrective maintenance work order. So you close the PM work order, needs repairs, and then you open the repair work order. All these closing codes play into the AEM determination, right? Yeah. And then when you get all done with all that stuff, you have a spreadsheet that looks like this. So on here I have work orders in a 2-year period. This top one here, if you can't see it in the back, this is ventilator intensive care. So work orders in a 2-year period, there were 2,847 work orders in a 2-year period. Number of assets, there's 185 of these ventilators. Total 2-year period, total hours in 2 years. So those 2,847 work orders added up to 1,072.91 work hours. Total hours per year for the 185 was 536. I promise I won't go through every one of these. I'm just going to go through the first one. So hours per work order was 0.38. And then the hours per asset per year was 2.9. So then at the end of that, you can figure out FTEs per asset per year. So if you're getting, like I said at the beginning here, that we were adding a new tower onto our hospital, Tower 3, how many people do we need to staff that? Well, hopefully our people, when they filled out their work orders, did a good job and they figured out actual time on everything. And so we figure out, oh, we have 10 of these. 10 times whatever that number is there, that equals the time per year that we're going to be able to have that. And then we figure out that, a normal technician is what, 2,080 hours a year, minus vacation, minus time off, minus whatever. So you figure what, 1,600 hours, 1,500 hours a year that you have for a technician. And then you can figure out, once you add all those up, how many technicians you're going to need for that new Tower 3 that we're building. And if your technicians have been doing a good job on entering their time, you'll have a good idea of how much time you'll need per asset for the new place whenever you're building it. Or if you're looking at staffing now and you say, oh, well, everybody seems really busy and we're not getting our job done. How much time do we have on all this stuff? well, we're a technician short, or we have too many technicians because we haven't been documenting our time very well, and it looks like we're not doing anything because we don't have enough work orders. That time management part I was talking about earlier. So this is something that management looks at, and it all adds up to this in the end, in the cost of service ratio and your AEMs. That's the work that we do every day that we're putting on work orders, and we kind of, just kind of close that work order, move on to the next one. It's looked at after we're all done with it, and this is how it's analyzed. And I think that, to me as a technician, and hopefully you as a technician, if you know that, it helps you do your job better. That's what these slides are mostly about, like this whole time management thing and the whole fantasy football comparison thing. Professional emails. I see a lot of people struggle with these, especially technicians. So subject line. I always fill in the subject line with a topic that means something to your reader. Make it pertinent to what the email is about, such as treadmill repair in the PT gym, or just treadmill repair. Something in your subject line telling your reader what you're emailing them about. Put the main point of your opening sentence in your opening sentence. Most readers won't stick around for the surprise ending. Most people that you're emailing don't take very long to read your email. Make it as short as possible. Be considerate of others' time. So I always try to keep all my emails to maybe 3 sentences total. If I can make it even shorter, I make it even shorter. Be brief and polite. If your message runs longer than 2 or 3 sentences, consider reducing the message or providing an attachment. So something that they can look at in addition to the email. I worked with this guy he used to have to email like people on the sea level. And they said to this guy, if your email is more than a sentence, that's all I'm reading. So you're just wasting my time if you read it, put any more than that in the email. And they also told him, take all emotion out of your email. So it's not your opinion or what you think or just state facts. That way you can't get in trouble with saying, Nurse Betty did this and that, and they should be fired, and going off on a tangent, and like this piece of equipment wouldn't be broken if it wasn't for Nurse Betty, and like I don't know why you have her in your department, and that has nothing to do with what you're doing for your job. Don't do that. You'll be in a lot of trouble for that. So keep it just to the facts. Keep it as short as possible. Don't use all capitals. That's considered shouting in email form or on the internet, also on forums. Or all lowercase. Professional email, as a general rule, PLZ, avoid text speak, abbreviations and acronyms. You might be ROFLOL, rolling on the floor, laughing out loud, but the reader will be left wondering, I did a politically correct statement here, WUWT, what's up with that? Instead of WTF. No slang on emails. It is a professional email sent in a business setting. Remember that, it's not like you're emailing your friends or something. It's not a text. Appropriate closing. At the end of the email, put your name. Don't get too creative. Some endings are considered distracting sign-offs, such as cheers or VR for very respectfully. I know that's a big one in the military, the VR. So choose one that won't feel out of place. Some of the most reliable options are sincerely, yours truly, thanks again, appreciatively, best regards, or respectfully. I usually just use thanks. I don't even use thanks again, just thanks, and then my name. Add a signature block with appropriate contact information. It should include your name, business address, phone number, a legal disclaimer if required by your company, which a lot of times will get added onto your email automatically. Do not clutter the signature block with the clever quotation or artwork. Your workplace might have a format for your signature block. I know at my work we have like a stock signature block. You pretty much just add your name, your title in there, and your phone number, email address, and that's your signature block. This is the one that's approved by our work, and that's the one that you use. Do you guys have something like that where you work at? Yeah, no, yeah. If you don't, you should come up with your own signature block, and it should just include this info. Professional email, edit and proofread before hitting send. It's funny because I sent this presentation to my bosses, and before I came here to do the expo, and I did send, and I read my email afterwards, and I had a spelling mistake in it, and I was like, man, I have it in my PowerPoint, you know, and I missed it, you know, but sometimes you overlook stuff like that. And for me, luckily, it was something really small, but you're not too busy to sweat the small stuff. Take time to complete this step. If it is not done, your reader may think you're careless or don't pay attention to details. So main points are keep it short, put a subject line, enter a signature block, closing line, keep it really, really simple. The whole idea of a business email is to keep it super simple, straight to the point. People don't have extra time. Some people, you're the boss in life. How many emails a day do you get? 100? Over 100? So if you're writing a whole story to him, do you have time to read a whole story? If you have a whole story, you're going to call him in your office and say, what's going on here with this? You know, can you tell me a little more? Because you have enough information in that email to know that you need to talk to him. That's all that the point is about that email. That's what you're trying to get across. Reply promptly to messages, to serious messages. So some messages sit in people's inbox for a while before they reply to them. And some emails that are just like organization emails, they just sit in my mailbox for, I look at that, oh, I don't need to know anything about that, delete. And, so if you need more than 24 hours to collect information or make a decision, send a brief response explaining the delay. Just tell them, you know, I'm looking into this, I'll get back with you. Something that simple. Just to let them know that you saw their email, that they're important to you and what they're sending you that email about. You care about it, but you're working on getting back with them, just so they know they're not being ignored. Professional email when you're out of office. Before I left for here, I sent my out of office email. When you know you're going to be gone from work, set up an auto reply. Include the auto reply what phone number to call instead of yours. Maybe a shop number or department number. Or if you can wait until you get back. This way the customer will not be expecting a quick response. I can't imagine, there's like so many people that work with me that I don't think they even know how to get to their out of office response on their email. So there's always learning for everyone. You know, being that technical expert doesn't always make you the technical expert on this kind of stuff. Professionalism. This is real quick. Hopefully I'm not running too much over time. Got started a little bit late. Professionalism. This is an area I kind of named this. You probably might have another name for it, but dress for success. You're a professional. You'll be talking with other professionals. You could be talking with doctors, nurses, VPs, directors. Dress appropriately. You only get one chance to make the first impression. So if you know you're going to be going to meet with like the VP, you probably want to dress up a little bit. Sometimes you might not know you're going to meet with the VP, and maybe you're a little underdressed. But if you're in biomed or management, you should look professional. What does that mean? No jeans, no sneakers, unless it may be part of your scrub uniform. I wear sneakers every day, luckily for me. It's really comfortable. I wear scrubs though. I have a scrub top and a scrub bottom. That's my uniform. And the hospital that I work at, it's color coordinated. So I'm a technician. So technicians like X-ray techs, ultrasound techs, so on. We have gray top and black bottoms. Nursing staff has navy blue top and navy blue bottom. Like PT has kind of a maroon color or pink color. It kind of lets the staff, I can't tell you having that gray top and the black pants, how many times I've gotten asked respiratory therapist questions because they think I'm a therapist or technician. And I have a question on this, can you come over here and look at this? I don't work in respiratory, sorry. Oh, I thought you were a respiratory therapist. Doctors and nurses both have asked me that. So if you have a uniform, then wear that. No hats. Pants should be docker style or comfortable, like most people here are dressed really nice, I think. Except for Chuck. He's on vacation though. Just kidding, Chuck. I'm just messing with you. I've known Chuck for a long time. He's from Colorado and lives here in Florida also. We've probably known each other about 20 years, Chuck. I think Chuck was at Biomed school when I went to Biomed, when I was in school. I think you might have been in charge of the school even. Shirt, polo is a minimum. Button shirt is better. I know I have bosses that I always wear a suit jacket like what you have on. Maybe in Colorado, nobody wears ties, but some places like East Coast, ties are a bigger deal. Like everybody has a tie. You go to the A.D.E.T conference and I don't even know how many people have ties in there. I'm like, wow, you guys really dress up a lot. But as a technician, you're working, you're kind of having to crawl around the floor and doing stuff, whatever, you have to have something kind of comfortable too. Shoes, casual business shoes, something comfortable. Other items. I put these in here because it seems like I kind of do this as an overall presentation for technicians overall. And some of these things I feel like shouldn't have to be said to people, but some people need to be told this. So I have this in my presentation. Clean shaven or very well kept beard, less than 1 inch preferable. I used to work with this guy that had this big beard, like ZZ Top. And we got a new manager. And he kind of was like, your beard doesn't really look professional, and so he trimmed it from here down to here. And he didn't get the point, it's like, I think he's trying to tell you to trim it a lot more than that. Well, the kids like it, and when I go into patient rooms, that. Okay, you do what you want to do. And the guy ended up getting fired at one point. So I think the boss was trying to tell him, we need to clean up your look a little more than what he was willing to do. Cologne and perfume, don't wear it. Most hospitals have a policy about this. Most hospitals don't allow don't want this because patients or staff have allergies or sensitive to strong scents of cologne and perfume. Deodorant, wear it. Wear deodorant. You don't want to be the stinky guy. It should not be heavily scented though. So just a really mild deodorant. No excessive jewelry or piercings. If you have tattoos on your arms, you may have to wear long sleeves, depending on where you work at. I know I used to work with this guy, he was an x-ray tech, and he always wore a sweatband around his forearm. I'm like, why do you need a sweatband on your forearm? And he slid it down and he goes, because I got this tattoo here. And the director told him, you need to cover up your tattoo. So it might be your dress code of where you're working at. Yeah.
Maybe I could slide, excuse me.
That's all right.
But I read it that I want to play service tax. This is not safe.
I do have a non-smoking, no smoking coming up. Now that we have masks on, it kind of hides it, don't worry. And that coffee too. Have you ever this guy with the beard again? He always had the coffee breath, and he always had to get in my space because even before social distancing, I kind of got my space, and he always wanted to talk to me up here. And I'd be like, and why do you got to talk to me with your coffee breath? I thought your crazy beard, get it back. But he kind of had a few of these things that would help him a lot to have this presentation. So tattoos, it seems like today tattoos, when I was a kid, and younger tattoos were like, oh, you're a criminal or you're a biker if you have tattoos. And now it's like, that's a cool thing to have. Everybody has tattoos. So maybe I feel like I'm parents now that I'm older, and I'm like, man, I'm turning into my parents. Like when I was younger, but now it's acceptable to have tattoos, and people even have face tattoos and all that, and it's like, that's okay, I guess now. It's still, to me, kind of not okay, but, and I think if you're a person looking for a job, that you probably don't want to get that face tattoo if you're trying to be a travel biomed. If you're like a rock star, like dang it, I can't think of the guy's name now, that has all the face tattoos. If you can go ahead and get face tattoos, but if you're a biomed, it's probably not good. Good hygiene, clean nails, clean teeth, clean hair, clean shoes, clean body, take a shower. Kind of goes along with wearing the deodorant. Clean clothes. Don't be wearing old, junky clothes. Not to pick on the fake, the beard guy again, but his clothes look like he had them for like 15 or 20 years, like they just look worn out. You know, and it's that first impression thing. And when the new boss started, that his first impression was not good, I can tell you that. I mean, he never talked to me about it, but I could just tell, you know, just reaction-wise, that guy started off on the wrong foot. Whole like first impression thing. Smoking, cigarettes or vaping. Hospitals don't allow this. So where I work at, if you're going to smoke, you have to walk like long, like halfway to the parking lot that I park in. It's 15 minutes walk one way. They don't really make it convenient for parking. We have a no smoking campus. The whole campus where I work at is no smoking. So you have to walk all the way out to the street. So work on stopping if you're smoking. That's my best advice. Try to stop. And there's plenty of stuff to stop now. My mom smoked for probably 40 or 45 years and recently stopped smoking. And I think now that she's semi-retired, I think the cost just gone. It's like too much. It's like, I'm not paying $4 for cigarettes, you know, that's ridiculous. But it was okay to pay $3 a pack. But now that she doesn't have maybe as much money coming in, that cost kind of drove her out. But if you work in a hospital, like he said, that cigarette breath, have you ever gotten on an elevator after someone that is smoking? They come in from outside and they get in the elevator and go somewhere. It's usually, when I worked at the children's hospital, it was usually family members. They would come in from smoking and they get on the elevator and I get on. Oh, you know, and when you're not around that, you notice it really, it seems really strong to you. So, and then chewing is kind of the same thing. Other items, marijuana. I'm from Colorado. I don't smoke marijuana though, or eat edibles or any of that other stuff. You can't do this even in states where it's legal. Even me in Colorado. This could be a workman's comp issue. If you're injured on the job, you might be asked to take a urinalysis. Even in Colorado, where I am. CBD is not, it's recommended not to do this. This could show up as on your urinalysis as THC. Oh, I put that wrong on there. It should be THC, not TCH. 2 minutes?
Yes, we have another.
Okay, I'm done. Oh, sorry, I'm running over. I started late. That's my excuse. So CBD can result in a positive test also. Driving record, no DUIs, no DWIs. If you drive a company vehicle, you could be asked to submit your driving records. At my old job, I had to do that every year. And I had to take a defensive driving class every year. Background check. You can possibly be credit checked as part of your background check. Usually that's for employment and when you're starting out. And thanks for joining me, everyone, for this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoy your time at the MD Expo. Thank you.